Hi, welcome to Equitation with Erin. This is the first video of this channel and I'm very excited to get it started. I've often thought that having a bit of a classroom approach to riding instruction could benefit many students. Why? Because so many of these concepts we're trying to learn about riding and about what we're supposed to do with our body and how we're supposed to communicate with the horse. These concepts can be quite abstract and first of all can be difficult to understand, and secondly difficult to then, once you understand, do, because it's not like you can just do that. You're also doing all of the other things that you've already learned to that point, and trying to communicate with your horse constantly, learn a new concept, get it in your brain, understand it, and apply it. And that's a very difficult thing to do. It's possible, but it's difficult. And I've often thought, what if we could actually talk about it whilst on the ground? When I was running my very busy lesson program, that is one of the ways that I would often utilize the grooming and the tacking up portion of the lesson. Or sometimes the warming up while they're walking around, they've already gotten to the point where they don't need help doing that. That's when I can say, okay, today, and I could start to begin to introduce the concepts that I imagine we would learn. I say imagine because a riding lesson does not always go the way you anticipate it to. Sometimes it'll go in a different direction. Doesn't mean that's bad. It just depends on what the horse is, feeling that day. It just can be very fluid. So here's our classroom portion of the riding lessons. The introduction. Let's see here. The word equitation. It gets a bad rap. People will often be like, I don't need to learn equitation. I don't want to show. Or I only show pleasure. I don't need equitation lessons. I don't need to learn about equitation because, that's not what I do. Well, yeah, it should be. Here's why. Equitation is all about how you as the rider can be more effective in communicating with your horse and get out of their way so they can do what it is they need to do. It isn't about just sitting there looking pretty. That's a part of obviously showing in equitation. It does play into it, especially in certain disciplines like saddle seat. There is a portion of showing in equitation where yes, there is the whole looking pretty, but that's not what equitation is about. It's about communicating effectively with your horse and getting out of their way so they can do what it is you would like them to do. So there also are a lot of clinicians and YouTubers out there wanting to tell you how to fix your horse or what to do with a problem horse. Over and over again, I've seen this. I'm not saying there aren't people instructing riders, but what I see is an overwhelming amount of this is the horse's problem and here's how you fix it. Usually, the horse's problem is you. And usually, if the horse does have a problem, not sorry to say, the amateur owner is not going to be able to do what it is that clinician is doing on the video or in the book or at the clinic that they went to. It's just not going to work. They need to work on themselves. You have to work on yourself first. It does. It sounds like a relationship because it's a relationship, right? And isn't that the case? The relationship is between you and your horse, and just like any relationship, what are you going to do? You're going to always be fixing your partner? It's always your partner's issue? No, it starts with you. So that is what we're going to be doing with this channel. We are going to be starting with the rider. It makes you more effective. It gets you out of the way of the horse so your horse can do what it is you would like them to do and what you think you're asking them to do. And riding correctly, it starts up here. If you can't understand it up here, you can't do it with your body. I've said to so many of my own students, I think riding is at least 75% mental. It might be more than that, because your body does whatever your brain tells it to do. And if you can't understand it, or you don't know why you're doing it, there's going to be a disconnect. There's absolutely going to be a disconnect. So it's important to take the time when you're off of the horse to really process these things. Or, I mean, this may be why you're not making the progress that you had hoped for. Maybe you're stuck on something. Maybe your instructor is just constantly repeating. Well, it must be because you're not doing it. Well, why aren't you doing it? Maybe you don't even understand what it is you're supposed to be doing. I would say that's the case. Or you don't know how, or you do understand it, but you can't figure out how to get your body to do it. We're going to talk about that. Okay, so do what? Do what? Let's get some examples in here. Some of the common ones are being able to sit to the trot. Instructors are constantly, stop bouncing, sit, stop bouncing. If you could, you would, right? But you don't know how. We're going to talk about that. Feeling leads when you're working on your canter. How come you can't feel your lead? Your instructor or your trainer is so frustrated. You missed a lead again. You were so sure it was right. You thought you knew it this time. Why can't you feel your leads? We're going to talk about that and how to feel your leads. Diagonals. Can't feel your diagonal, can't see your diagonal, can't figure out what the hell is a diagonal and why is it important? We'll talk about that. Inside leg to outside rein. For some reason, this will twist a rider's brain into a pretzel. It sounds like, you're asking them to do calculus when they're on the horse. It makes no sense. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what it means, why we do it, all of that. We're going to talk about that. Soft hands, so important. Sally Swift says, act like you're holding two baby birds. And I'm like, sometimes those baby birds' heads are going to pop off. Sometimes it depends on the situation. We're going to talk about that too. Like, not every rule is hard and fast for every rider, because every rider brings their own set of issues. You're not going to tell every rider to be supple. I have riders that are like, I'm not going to tell that rider to be supple, right? And I have this rider, I'm not going to tell this rider to sit up straight, right? I'm going to tell this rider to go loose. I'm going to tell this rider, sit up like a stiff board. So you can't read a book and learn how to ride, because the person writing the book doesn't know what your issues are. So we're going to talk about it, different issues for different types of riders. And we're going to figure out what kind of rider you are. Sitting the canter. Some people it's just woo! And they just don't, they want to. They would sit it if they could. It's not a choice, instructors, okay? They're not trying to make you mad by not sitting the canter. They're not trying. They want to sit the canter. We're going to learn how to sit the canter by learning up here. We're going to learn, what is your seat? What are these seat bones? How do you use your seat? How do you drive with your seat? What's a seat? What does that even mean? Where is it? We're going to talk about all of that. These are just some of the topics we're going to cover in this channel. I think we're going to have fun. I welcome your questions. I really do welcome your questions. I want to help you fix your issues. We're going to react to some videos. I'm going to show you some do's, mostly some do's. We see lots of videos where it's like, well, this looks terrible. Well, we already know of that. Okay, tell us something that somebody's doing right and say, well, how are they achieving that? How is Charlotte Dujardin, one of my idols, how is she looking so friggin' amazing, right? Well, we're going to talk about that. How does she do it? We'll break it down. And that way you can get it up here and you can start to visualize what your body needs to do to achieve that. And we'll also talk about, do you have the right instructor? The chemistry is important because they're 5 minutes away. That's not a reason. It's not a reason to choose an instructor or a trainer or a doctor or anyone. Convenience is great, especially with gas prices this high, but it's not the way to choose an instructor. You have to choose one who's right for you, where you are making progress. But in this series, on this channel, you're going to start to learn, why might you not be making progress? What's the hiccup? What's the, what are you stuck on? And it's more than likely up here, right? There's a disconnect, and we're going to figure it out. Okay? I look forward to it. I'm excited to help everybody, and I want challenges. Send me questions, some really hard ones that have been stumping you forever. Why this, why that? I always told my students, please come to me with a question that I don't know the answer to, because it will only make me better as an equestrian.